Okay, hi everybody. This is week 11 now, and this is the video lesson for this week. Quite a lot to fit into this one. What we will learn. Okay, first we will check the review quiz answers that you guys did last Monday. And then we're going to review the common mistakes worksheet that I included in last week's PowerPoint video. And then we can move on to Unit 8 in the Breakthrough book. And Unit 8 has a few different things in it. We're going to do the grammar part, which is narrative tenses. And then we'll also look at some adverbs and phrasal verbs. And Unit 8 is all about storytelling, but mostly telling stories from your own life, your own experiences. Right, so let's get to it. First, we're going to review the quiz that I gave you last Monday. Okay, so let's just do this as easy as possible. Let's go through each question and I'll just give you the correct answer and I will explain why that was the correct answer. Number 1, what blank if a friend asked to borrow some money? Right, so you have to remember the different grammars that we studied. And this one was the first unit that we studied this semester, Unit 10. And that was making a conditional sentence. And do you remember, if you make a second conditional sentence, you use if, and then you use would or could. So the correct answer has to include would. What would you do if a friend asked to borrow some money? Not what will you do, what would you do? Okay, because basically that was the grammar that we studied from Unit 10. So that was number 1. What would you do if a friend asked to borrow some money? Okay, number 2. Jessica blank at home. Her car isn't in her driveway or garage and there are no lights on in her house. Okay, this was Unit 11, making deductions. Jessica blank at home. Right, now look at the evidence. Her car is not in her driveway or in her garage. Her car isn't there. There are no lights on in her house. So what would be the obvious guess? The obvious guess is that Jessica is not at home. Her car isn't there and there are no lights on. So the obvious guess would be Jessica can't be at home. Okay? Number 3, I'm worried about seeing my friends because I blank them a lot of money. This was a vocabulary question about money. The correct answer is O. I'm worried about seeing my friends because I owe them a lot of money. Now let's see, do the other words work? Because I lend them a lot of money? No, that doesn't work. You would have to use the past tense. I lent them. C, wasted, because I wasted them a lot of money. No, that doesn't work. You don't use wasted and a pronoun. You would say, I wasted my money. And then borrowed, because I borrowed them. No, if you're going to use borrowed, you would have to say, I borrowed from them. So grammatically, O is the only one that works. Number 4, if you blank an animal, what animal would you be? If you were an animal, you have to use the past tense. If you were an animal, what animal would you be? So this is also a grammar question from Unit 10. If you were an animal, what animal would you be? Okay, question 5. Sometimes life can be hard as an blank because of language problems. Right, now there is a clue in the grammar of the sentence because the article is an. So in that case, the next word must start with a vowel, A, E, I, O, U. The next word must start with one of those letters. So therefore, the answer must be B. Sometimes life can be hard as an expatriate because of language problems. Number 6. John planned a celebration party for Emma's graduation, but then she found out she had failed the course. Okay, so this is the Proverbs. Don't celebrate success before you have it. Which idiom has that meaning? C. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. Don't celebrate success before you have it. John was celebrating Emma's success before she had it. Number 7. I'm thinking of blank to Canada because I like the nature there. Right, so we need to have a verb here. So A and C cannot work because those are nouns. So it has to be B or D. Let's see if B works. I'm thinking of settling down to Canada. No, it doesn't work. Settling down, the next word would be in. I'm thinking of settling down in Canada. Okay, so the answer must be D. I'm thinking of emigrating to Canada because I like the nature there. Number 8. If you blank English, would your life change? Right, so this is also grammar from Unit 10. And if you remember how to make the second conditional sentence, you have to use a past tense verb. So it cannot be C because C says stop. It must be A, B, or D. Stopped, tried, or stopped again. Let's try each one. If you stopped studying English, would your life change? That's okay. If you tried study English, that doesn't work because try, you need try to. So that would have to be if you tried to study English. So B doesn't work. What about D? If you stopped study English. Well, actually that doesn't work neither because we have the word stop, that means that you are doing it now. If you are doing it now, then we use ing, the continuous form of the verb. You guys are studying English now. Okay, so in that case, you have to use ing. So the answer... Oh, whoops. Okay, sorry. The answer to that previous question is A. If you stopped studying English, would your life change? If you stopped studying because you are studying English now. Okay, number 9. I haven't seen my student for 2 months. I think she blank quit the class. Right, now just think about this. What would be the natural thing to think? You haven't seen a student for 2 months. So what would you think naturally? Do you think she might have quit the class? She must have quit the class? She can't have quit the class? Or she haven't quit the class? Now actually A and D, they don't work because this needs to be a past tense. So it's got to be B or C. I think she must have quit the class, or I think she can't have quit the class. I haven't seen her for 2 months. What would I think? I would think she must have quit the class. I haven't seen my student for 2 months. I would think she must have quit the class. Okay, number 10. Now look at the brackets, the parentheses. Number 10. We are in the classroom. Rosa's bag is here. So Rosa is a student's name. Rosa's bag is here, but she is not. So where would I think she is? A, she might be in the washroom. B, she might have be in the washroom. That's wrong grammar. C, she can't have been. Well, that doesn't make sense. And then D, she might be at home. So A and D are the only two options here. Right, we are in the classroom. Her bag is here. So would I think she's at home? No, of course I wouldn't. So the best answer would be A. She might be in the washroom. Using the evidence. 11. This is now Unit 12. Mandarin Chinese blank in some British schools these days. Now the key there is these days. So that is present tense. These days is like now. So we have to use a present tense form. So we can't use A. We can't use B. It has to be C or D. Mandarin Chinese is taught in some British schools these days. Right, number 12. Some students got this one wrong. Gravity blank by Sir Isaac Newton. When was gravity discovered? Now or in the past? Obviously, it was in the past, so we have to use the past tense. So it can't be B. Some people put B for this one. No, it has to be D. Gravity was discovered by Sir Isaac Newton. 13. I think the woman blank is sitting over there is my Spanish teacher. Right, so this is describing people, places, and things. Remember, for a person, we're going to use who. For a place, we're going to use where. And for a thing, we're going to use which. So we're talking about a woman, a Spanish teacher. This is a person. The answer is who. I think the woman who is sitting over there is my Spanish teacher. 14. This is a vocabulary question from Unit 7. The traffic light was red for pedestrians, but he ran across the road. Okay, so this is a dangerous action. Another word for dangerous, reckless. The traffic light was red, but he ran across the road. Very reckless, dangerous. Question 15. The hamburgers here aren't very good. Right, this is where you have a confirmation question. And remember, I taught you in the video, what you have to do is change the positive form to the negative or the negative to the positive. The hamburgers here are not. That's a negative. So you turn the negative into a positive. Aren't becomes are. The hamburgers here aren't very good, are they? 16. The weather is great today, so is becomes isn't. The weather is great today, isn't it? It cannot be D because we're not talking about a person, we're talking about a thing, the weather. So in that case, you're going to use it. Okay, number 17. That's the cell phone blank of buying. Right, should we go through each answer, see which one works? So A, that's the cell phone which I'm of buying. Right, well that doesn't work because I'm and of in this sentence, they don't go together. That's the cell phone which I'm buying, that would work, but we have I'm of, doesn't work. B, that's the cell phone that I want. Of buying, no. That I want to buy would be okay, but it doesn't work here. That's the cell phone which I'm thought of buying. Well, I am, you don't use the past tense. I am thought, no, I am think, but it would have to be I am thinking. So the answer is D, that's the cell phone which I'm thinking of buying. Okay, 18. My brother is very blank. He lived with 3 pet cats, then with 5 roommates, and now he lives alone. So he has lived in very different situations. He lived with 3 pets, then with 5 roommates, now he lives alone. So the word is the adjective. Oops, sorry, we're missing the answer there. But the answer is adaptable for number 18. Adaptable. Number 19, I like places where the mood is calm and quiet. Remember, places and where. I like places where the mood is calm and quiet. And then the last one, number 20, Kia cars blank in Korea. Right, so this is the unit 12. So Kia cars. Cars is a plural noun. So we have to use the plural form, which is going to be are or were. Well, as you can see, there's only one answer here. It's C. Kia cars are manufactured in Korea. You can't use is or was because those are for single nouns. Okay, so that was the review quiz, and we will have one more at the end of the semester, and I will let you know when that will be. Now let's move on to the next part of the video, and this one is going to be the writing mistakes from the last video. Right, so this was at the end of the last video from last week, week 10. Read this short passage and try to find the mistakes. Circle, underline, or write them down. And then week 11 video, this is this one, we'll go through the answers. Right, so did you try to find the mistakes? How many did you find? Because there are actually 14 mistakes. So what you should do, stop this video and search one more time, because you should be able, or you should try to find 14 mistakes. So if you haven't done this yet, stop the video on this slide and see if you can find the mistakes. If you did do it and you didn't find 14, have another look, and then when you are ready, move to the next slide in the video and I will show you the answers. Right, so here we go. Here are your 14 mistakes. These are related to the common mistakes that I talked about in the last video. Let's go through each one and I will show you the correct answer. So, at the beginning, I remember the first time I fly on an airplane. So fly needs to be past tense. Flew. I remember. It's a memory, so it should be past tense. I remember the first time I flew, and then look at number 2. Is that the correct article? No. The noun begins with a, which is a vowel. So you have to use an. I remember the first time I flew on an airplane. Next sentence. I am 13 years old. No, that should be past tense. I was 18 years old. And I was going on a 9-month round the world backpacking trip with my best friend. Now that is actually okay, because it is a trip, but the name of the trip is a 9-month round the world backpacking trip. So actually that is okay. Some students thought that there was a mistake there, but that actually is okay. I was going on a 9-month round the world backpacking trip with my best friend. We were both very excited but also nervous because, now what is the problem there? Please remember, you cannot start a new sentence with because. So you can make this one sentence. We were both very excited but also nervous because it was. That can be one sentence, okay? Do not start a new sentence with the word because. Okay, so let's keep going. It was the first time to fly on an airplane for both of us. You could say for the both of us, but sometimes you can just remove the article. In this case, you don't need to have for the both of us. You can just remove the. It was the first time to fly on an airplane for both of us. Our parents drove us to the airport in London, comma, and. Right, so there is a mistake there because it is an incorrect capital A after a comma. So let's make that one sentence with a small letter. In London, and we had. So that is an incorrect capital A after a comma. And should have a small a. And we had a final meal with them before saying goodbye. The plane was huge and our seats were at the very back of the it. Incorrect article the. In this sentence, we don't need the, just the very back of it. So there is an incorrect article. Number 7, don't start a new sentence with and. You can use also in this case. Also, comma, I thought that was good because I read. Right, now this is actually related to the grammar that we're going to study in Unit 8. You have to use what we call the past perfect. That is when you are talking about two actions in the past. One that happened before the other. In that case, you use had. I thought that was good because I had read. That's the past perfect. Okay, we'll talk about that in this video a bit later. I had read that the back part of a plane is the safest part. When the plane take off, that has to be past tense. When the plane took off, I felt scary. Scary has to be past tense, scared. But once it was up in the sky, I relaxed and started to enjoy the experience. I watched several films and also enjoyed the food. However, comma, the worst thing was the turbulence. When the plane started to shake violently, I was terrifying. Terrifying is in the wrong form. It should be past tense. I was terrified. My hands were very sweaty and my heart was beating so fast. But, don't start a new sentence with the word but. So in this case, let's make it one sentence. My heart was beating so fast, use a comma, but luckily it didn't last for long and most of the flight was calm and smooth. I was able to sleep a lot. No, I was able to sleep a lot. That is a grammar mistake. I was, that's the past tense. I was able to, and then you use a present tense verb. I was able to sleep. I was able to study. I was able to watch. I was able to play. I was able to sleep a lot. Finally, we arrive. No, it should be past tense. Finally, we arrived at our first destination of our long backpacking trip, Zimbabwe. Okay, so that is actually a true story for me. That was the first time I flew on an airplane. Later in this video, you can maybe use this topic to write about a first experience in your life. Okay, everybody, so let's move on now to Breakthrough Unit 8. Okay, so now we're going to turn to Unit 8 in the Breakthrough book, Past Events. And the grammar section at the back of your book tells you that the grammar form is narrative tenses. So what we're doing is we're telling stories, but we're telling stories that are true and real from our lives. So they're kind of memories or just events that happen to you. Okay, this is not about making up a story like a book. We're talking about how to tell stories from your life. So we need to use the past tense, and we're going to use 3 different forms of the past tense. So the first one is the simple past, and that's just when you use the past tense of a verb. Talk about actions and events that took place at a specific time in the past. So as you can see on the left side of this screen, on the timeline, we're just talking about one action or one event that happened at one time in the past. So the example is, Hiro left the office and went home. Okay, so leave becomes left, the past tense. Go becomes went. That one's pretty simple. Simple past. Right, now look at the next one. The past continuous. And to make this, you use the past form of to be. So basically was or were. And then you use the main verb of the sentence and you add ing. So there are 3 different ways that we're going to use this. Talk about longer actions and events in the past. So the book's example, I was working at home last Friday afternoon. I was working. So that is a longer period of time. It's not just one action. It's an action that lasts for a longer period of time. Here's another example. I was riding my bike all afternoon yesterday. Okay, so maybe 3 or 4 hours. Another way you can use this is to set the scene for a story. So the book's example, it was raining and we were feeling tired. Or, the children were running and shouting in the park. So that is setting the scene, trying to give the listener some sort of image. And then you can also use it to talk about an action that was happening when something else happened. We were taking an exam when the fire alarm suddenly went off. Okay, so you're talking about an action that was happening when something else happened. We were taking an exam when the fire alarm suddenly went off. And the book's example, they were getting on a plane when the police stopped them. Okay, and then the last one, and this is what I talked about earlier in this video, past perfect. Talk about an action or event in the past that happened before something else. So you're talking about 2 actions from the past, but specifically they are connected. One happened before the other. And in this one you use had before a past participle. The film had already started when we entered the cinema. Okay, so the film starting is related to me entering the cinema. The film had already started when we entered the cinema. And the book's example, the train had left before I arrived at the station. So basically he missed his train. Right, so we've got 3 forms of the past tense: simple past, past continuous, past perfect. That's what we're going to use to tell stories from our life. Let's practice. Page 109, which is the same page as the grammar that we just looked at. Let's use this little fill in the blanks activity. So it says, complete the story using the verbs in parentheses in the simple past, the past continuous, or the past perfect. Right, now what you're going to do, stop this video, take a pen and pencil, or if you have your book, take your book and try to fill in the blanks, and you're going to change the verbs to use the simple past, the past continuous, or the past perfect. So please do that now. Stop the video, and then when you're ready, start the video again, and I will go through the answers. Okay, so I will assume that you are ready now to check your answers. I'm just going to go through this quickly, so I'll read the story with the correct forms of these verbs. Here we go. When I got home last night, I discovered that someone had broken into my house while I was shopping downtown. Right, so we've got all three forms of the past there. We've got the simple past, 1 and 2. We've got the past perfect, number 3. And we've got the past continuous, number 4. Number 3 is the past perfect because it happened before 1 and 2. And number 4 is the continuous because it describes a longer action. Keep going. The kitchen window was open, and as soon as I went into the family room, I saw that someone had taken my TV. That is past perfect because it happened before my actions, and some DVDs. I immediately called the police and told them what had happened. Past perfect because it happened before. I then looked in my bedroom, but luckily the thief hadn't found my expensive watch or jewelry. While I was coming out of my bedroom, I suddenly heard a noise in the kitchen. Number 14 is while I was coming because it is describing the action of moving, so it's a longer action. While I was coming out of my bedroom, I suddenly heard a noise in the kitchen. I ran downstairs and into the kitchen just as a man was climbing out of the window. Naturally, I shouted, "Hey, who are you?" But he didn't stop. He jumped to the ground and drove away in a black car. Okay, so just number 14, sorry, there's a little mistake. Number 14 was coming. Okay, let's move on. Page 51, adverbs ending in ly. Vocabulary. Circle the correct adverbs to complete the story. Right, so adverbs are going to help tell a story because they describe verbs. Well, they can describe nouns, they can describe adjectives, but in this case, we're using ly adverbs, which usually describe verbs. Right, so what you can do then, you can stop the video again and try to circle the correct adverb. Number 1, they did it for us. I'm a very careful person. So when I left home this morning, I naturally thought that I had locked all the windows and doors. Naturally means like, of course. Of course, I would usually lock all the windows and doors. Naturally, I thought that I had locked all the windows and doors. Okay, so stop the video and try to circle the correct adverbs. If you don't know what the words are, you should check their meaning with a translator. and then circle the answers and then start the video again and I will give you the answers. Right, here we go. So I'm a very careful person, so when I left home this morning, I naturally thought I had locked all the windows and doors. However, when I arrived at work, a message was waiting for me, and so it's gradually or suddenly, I suddenly discovered, right, that means at that moment something happened and you were not expecting it. Suddenly discovered that I had left the front door open. Luckily, my neighbour had noticed. Right, so that's good fortune, luck. Luckily, my neighbour had noticed, and she had something called the police. Immediately or unbelievably? Unbelievably is like very, very, very surprising. Well, this is not surprising. Immediately, she had called the police. I jumped back in my car to drive home, but unfortunately, it wouldn't start. Right, unfortunately. So you don't have fortune. It's like unluckily, basically. Unfortunately, something happens that you didn't want to happen. Unfortunately. Unfortunately, it wouldn't start. So I had to walk to the bus stop. I waited for a long time, but eventually a bus arrived. If you are waiting for a long time, you can use the word eventually. Okay? It was raining all day today, but eventually it stopped. So when you have to wait for some time, you can use eventually. Eventually a bus arrived. Number 7, when I finally got back home, okay, after some time, you can use finally. Something took a long time, but finally it ends. When I finally got back home, I thanked my neighbour and locked the front door. Hopefully, I'll never make the same mistake again. I hope. Right, so we got some adverbs now. This video is going to be quite long, so let's keep going. We've got one more thing to check, and then I will give you an assignment to do. So just check page 117, and let's have a look at some phrasal verbs. Unit 8, phrasal verbs. Match each sentence with a response. So you've got to match a number with a letter. A phrasal verb, remember, is a verb and a preposition. So match each sentence with a response, but also try to find the phrasal verb and underline it. Right, so let's do it together. Number 1, we had to call off tonight's meeting. Gee, that's too bad. When's the next one? And the phrasal verb is call off. Call off means cancel. We had to call off the meeting. We had to call off the class. We had to call off the trip. We had to call off the party. Okay, it means cancel. Number 2, please pick up all this garbage. So the response is yes, I'll do it now. And the phrasal verb is pick up. Pick something up from the ground. Please pick up the garbage. Please pick up your pencil. Please pick up the cell phone on the floor. Okay? Pick up. Something is on the ground and you pick it up. 3, I can't remember where John lives. The response is, C, can you look up his address in the phone book? The phrasal verb is look up. What does it mean? It means find some information. Look up his address in the phone book. Or you could look up we want to watch a movie tonight. What time is the movie showing at the cinema? I'm not sure. Let me look it up using the cinema app on my phone. So it basically means trying to find some information. Look up. Research some information. Number 4. It's very dark in here, you know. Is it? I'll turn on the light. Turn on. Right, so in this case, it just means turn on some electrical appliance. Turn on the light, turn on the computer, turn on the cell phone, turn on the TV. Usually something that uses electricity or a battery, you can use the phrasal verb turn on. Number 5, I don't really get along with Jane, you know. H, really? I like her a lot. The phrasal verb is get along. I don't really get along with Jane. Right, get along means, do you have a good relationship with someone? I get along well with my younger brother. So that sentence means I have a good relationship. I don't get along with my sister. I don't have a good relationship. Get along. Number 6, can you turn off your cell phone? D, yes, I'll do it now. Turn off. Right, opposite of turn on. Turn off the computer, turn off the light. Turn off the car engine. Okay? 7, don't forget, okay? Don't worry, I'll write down the date in my date book. Write down, so just use your pen or pencil and write something, write it down. And then number 8, we've run out of milk. Don't worry, I'll buy some more. Run out. That means you don't have any left. We've run out of milk. We've run out of water. We've run out of time. We've run out of money. You don't have any more. You need to replace it. Okay guys, so there you go. Those are some phrasal verbs. And now let's just give you a little assignment to do to check what we have learned in this video. Right, homework assignment, page 53 in the book. This is what it looks like. You've got some topics here that you can use for a writing assignment. So please follow these instructions. Choose one of these writing topics and write a short narrative about your experience. Right, a narrative means just a memory. So you're going to write about one of these topics. You must use the 3 narrative tenses from Unit 8. So you must use the simple past, you must use the past continuous, you must use the past perfect. And also use an adverb at least once. Highlight them in your writing so it's easy for me to check. The deadline is May 17th, which is Sunday. Email me your work, and remember in the subject, please put Unit 8, your class day and time, Monday 11 AM, and your student name. Right, now I will show you an example. Please make sure you follow my example with the highlighting. Scott's example. Right, so this is answering the question, the first time I earned some money. The red is the simple past. The purple is the past perfect. The green is the past continuous. And the blue shows adverbs. And I've actually used some different adverbs from the ones we studied. So you can use different ones if you want to. Just make sure you use adverbs with ly. Okay, so I will read this And please use this example to help you. And you should write roughly about the same amount of words as this. It's not too small, it's not too big. Okay, so I remember the first time I earned some money. I was 12 years old and an elementary school student. My mother had suggested to my older brother and I that we should try earning some money during the summer holiday. She probably wanted us to get out of the house. Therefore, my brother and I decided to try to wash our neighbours' cars for a small fee. It was exciting knocking on their houses, asking if they would let us wash their cars. My brother was older than me, so he spoke to our neighbours when they opened their door, and I just quietly stood behind him. Thankfully, a few people agreed to pay us a few pounds. We took our sponges and buckets full of hot soapy water to where their cars were and washed them as carefully as we could. We probably earned about £4 to £5 each, and I remember feeling extremely satisfied and happy. We spent our money on sweets and chocolate at the nearby shop. Right, so there you go, guys. That is what you should do. Please write an answer to one of those topics and send it to me in an email. You can put it on a Word file, or you can just send it straight from an email. It doesn't really matter. And you can do that before Sunday. All right, thanks a lot for your attention. See you next time.